So what I'm going to do in this video is we're going to look at factorising into single brackets. So hopefully you have already watched the video on how to expand brackets, and essentially this is just the reverse process. It's just going back the other way. So instead of multiplying out brackets, what we're going to do is we're actually going to almost play a game of guess the question. So what brackets would have given this as a result? So what we do, and these ones we're only looking at single brackets. If we're talking about double brackets, that's a completely different situation and it's a bit more complicated. So we're just looking at questions where there are single brackets at the moment. So if you think about the word factorising, to find a factor is when we're looking for a number, or in this case letter or letters that go into a term. So if we think about numbers to begin with, think about the number 10, which I've got here. Factors of 10, we're looking at numbers which go into 10. So 1, 2, 5 and 10 all go into the number 10. So what we want though is we want a common factor. So we want a number that goes into both 5 and 10. And we want the highest common factor. We want to take out as much as possible. The question will always say factorise completely. So we're looking for the most that we can possibly take out to be at the front of the bracket. So what we're essentially looking for is a term that goes here followed by something which would be in the brackets there. Now if we look at this, I've given us a nice simple one to begin with, and you might be able to spot what's happening straight away. So I would always start with the numbers. So we say to ourselves, right, what number goes into both the 5 and the 10? And the biggest number that goes into both 5 and 10 is just 5. So we can write that down here. And then we look for any letters. Now there are no letters in here, so it's nice and easy. So we cannot take any letters out at all. So that's it, that's as much as we can do. And then what we do is we say to ourselves, okay, what do I multiply 5 by? Because when we're expanding, remember, we do this multiplied by the first term, and then that multiplied by the second term. So what do I multiply 5 by here, which is going to give me the answer 5x? And the answer is just x. If we do 5 times x, we get 5x. So that's our first term, and we've got that. Then we look for, what do I multiply 5 by here, this part of the bracket, which is going to give me positive 10. Now for a start, it's got to be a positive number because we've got positive 5 and we've got a positive answer, so it must be plus something. So 5 times what gives you 10? And the answer is 2. Okay, so there we have our answer. Now you can check your answer by then expanding the brackets. So 5 times x is 5x, 5 times 2 is 10, and so we have both terms. Okay, so I've got another 3 examples for us to look at. Now, when we look at example number 2, I'm just going to give you a little a different kind of approach to this. So we've got here 12x and we've got 16. So I said to you, think about a number that would go into both of those first, okay? And a number that goes into both 12 and 16 is 2. So we can put 2 out the front, and then the same here. If we look at the letters, there are no letters here, and therefore we cannot take a letter out. So then I've got 2 times this bracket. 2 times what gives me 12x? Well, that's 6x. 2 times what gives me 16? And that's 8. I've got a negative there, so I must have a negative there, and therefore that's my answer. And you can check it. If you multiply that out, 2 times 6x gives you 12x. 2 times negative 8 gives you negative 16. So that is right. However, it is not the best answer because we are factorising completely. We want to take out as much as possible. And we know that it's not the complete answer because if we look in the bracket, there are still common factors here. So you can either factorise again, but that gets a bit messy, or go back to here and think to yourself, okay, is there a bigger number that I could have taken out to begin with? And the answer is yes, there is, and that number is 4. 4 goes into both 12 and 16. There's no higher number, that is the biggest number that will go into both of them. So we take out 4. Again, there's still no letter, so that's it. So then we say 4 times what gives us 12x? Well, if we want 12, we need a 3 and we need an x. So it's 3x. And if you multiply that, 4 times 3x gives you 12x. And then just like here, we need the minus, and then 4 times what gives you 16? Well, it's 4. And if we check here, for a start, if we multiply that out, we get those two terms. And secondly, if we look at 3x and negative 4, there are no common factors, so we're done, okay? Now, the next question is a little bit more tricky because of the fact that we've got letters involved as well. So again, we need to look at the numbers first. Always do the number bit first, it's much easier, and then we'll come on to the letters. So we want the highest number that goes into both 8 and 18. Now you'd think it'd be quite a big number, but actually it's only 2. So 2 goes into both of them, and there's not a bigger number that will go into those two. So we have 2. Now, letter-wise, there is an x in both. Now we want to take out as much as possible. We can't take out x squared because there isn't an x squared here. So the most we can take out is actually just x. And then we've got to figure out what goes in the bracket. So the trick is this. We have to say to ourselves, 2x times by what is going to give us 8x squared. Now the number bit is easy. 2 times 4 gives you 8. Now we've got x, so that's going to give us 8x, but we want 8x squared. Now a classic mistake is where people just put squared. That's not right. Think about what squared means. Squared means something times by itself. So 8x squared means 8 times x times x. Okay? Break it down even further. We've just put it as 2 times 4. So it's 2 times 4 times x times x. Now we've got the 2, we've got the x, and we've just worked out we've got the 4. What's left is x. And if we do 2x times 4x, we get 8x squared, which is what we want. Plus, and now we want 18x, and we've got 2x. Now we've already got to the x, so we do not need any more. We've got a 2, but we need 18. So 2 times what gives you 18? The answer is 9. And again, check that you get the right answer. So 2x times 4x is 8x squared, and 2x times 9 is 18x. I recommend you just go through that again a couple of times just to make sure that you fully understand what's happening, because I think that is possibly the most tricky part. Now this one here is a nice extension one to make us think about things a little bit. Now here we've got 2 letters, we've got x and we've got y. And we've got 3 terms. Still a single bracket. First thing, look at the numbers, all right? Stick with what's easy. We've got 4, 2 and 8. What's the biggest number, remember, that goes into all of these? Not that they go into, but what goes into all of them. And the answer there is 2. We can't go any higher because that's the smallest number. 2 goes into itself, 2 goes into 4 and 2 goes into 8. And that's as big as we can do. Now, there is an x in every term, so we can take out an x. The highest power we can take out is actually always going to be the smallest power that we've got. So we've only got x here and here, so that's as much as we can take out, all right? And then the same with the y. We've got y squared, we've got y cubed, and we've got y. So the biggest amount we can take out is the smallest letter, so that's just y. Now, what we've got now is we've got to work out what I multiply this by to give me each of those terms. So take them one at a time. 2xy. So first of all, numbers. 2 times what gives you 4? Answer 2. Now we've got an x, that's fine. Y squared, we've got y. So just like up here, if we've got y and we need y squared, we need to multiply by a y. Okay? So go over that again, make sure that you're happy with that, okay? So you do each bit one at a time. So we've got the 4, we've got the x, we've got the y squared, we're happy. Plus, now, we actually don't need a number here, do we? Because we've already got 2. Essentially, there's actually going to be a 1 there, but we don't write it because we don't need to. So that's dealt with. We've got x, we need x squared, so we need an x. That's fine. X times x will give me x squared. Now we've got a y, we need y cubed. So it's a little bit more tricky. So y times y times y is y cubed. So we've got one of them, so we need y times y, and a simpler way of writing y times y is y squared. So we can write y squared here, minus, then we've got 2 times what gives you 8, well that's 4. We've got x, we've got y, and that's all that's there, so we are done, and that is it. So really it's just about taking it one step at a time, doing one thing as you go along, and then just look back and make sure that when you multiply it out you get what you started with. And that's it. Thank you for watching.